Have you ever wanted to look into retro games but aren't sure where to begin? Do you ever wonder which classic games stand the test of time and which ones don't hold up? These are some questions that have been bothering me for a while now, and I think it's about time to do something about it. So I'm going through gaming's history one game at a time to find the best games of all time. Welcome to the Gaming Archaeologist. Teen Titans. Based on the comic book series of the same name, Teen Titans was an animated TV show about a group of young superheroes that aired in the early to mid 2000s. It was one of my favorite shows growing up, and even now that I'm older, I still enjoy it pretty well. The new one, not so much, but the original will always have a special place in my heart. And like any successful series, it of course had a number of video game adaptations, including this one for the GBA. Is it any good? The first thing to note is that the game does a pretty good job of recreating the look and feel of the show. You can only play as one of the Titans at a time, but you can switch back and forth between any of them whenever you want. The game does a good job of making their respective powers and abilities reflective of what they were like in the show, and it also does a good job of balancing things so that while all of them have a distinct playstyle, all of them are equally useful and necessary throughout the game, which is not an easy thing to pull off. It's clear that whoever made this game was either a fan of the show, or at the very least watched the show first to try to make the game as faithful as possible. There are 6 levels in the game, and all of them are fairly big and somewhat open-ended, with lots of hidden secrets to find, and trying to collect them all adds a fair amount of replayability to the game. The combat is okay. The game does a good job of making each of the Titans useful and fun to play as, but the combat does get a bit repetitive, and if the game was any longer, it probably would have started to get really tedious. As it stands, the game is fairly short, but it still feels like a good length. I'd say that the main issue with the game is how much you enjoy it will largely depend on whether you're a fan of the show the game is based on. On its own, the game is still fun, and the gameplay is good, but it's not great. And if you're not a fan of the show, many of the references and callbacks to the show won't mean anything, and you'll just be left with an above-average action platformer. So if you're a fan of the original Teen Titans show, I would highly recommend this game. But if you're not a fan of the show, then this game is still good, but not one that you need to go out of your way to try. My final score is a 7 out of 10. As someone who is a fan of the show, I quite enjoyed this game, and I have a feeling I'll be returning to this game again. So what do you think? Are you a fan of Teen Titans? What's your favorite superhero video game? Whatever you think, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.